In World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King Classic, you'll face dozens of different dangerous, strange, and horrific monsters on your journey through Northrend. One of the first is the barbaric Vrykul, who have an extensive history and a wide variety of lore you'll need to know about. So let me explain the lore. I'm PlatinumWoW, and here is my interpretation of all of the Vrykul factions, their relationship with the Lich King, and how us humans evolved from their tale. It all starts in the very early history of Azeroth, 15,000 years ago. The Titan Keepers of the world had imprisoned all of the old gods and were shaping the world as they saw fit. To help in this process, they created new Titan Forged, a wide variety of sentient creatures of stone and metal who were basically their servants. The Vrykul were one of these servants, but the old god Yogg-Saron, imprisoned within Ulduar, did some sneaky little mind manipulation on one of the keepers who accidentally spread an affliction called the Curse of Flesh to make the Titan Forged easily corruptible. The Vrykul's once hardened metallic form slowly became brittle, weak, and fleshy. All of the Titan Forged were now currently going through an existential crisis as the curse spread amongst them. They tried desperately to find some sort of natural cure to their ailment. Maybe, rub some frost lotus on it? No. Shovel tusk meat? No. Maybe, rub a penguin on it? I don't know. No, it's useless. Okay, with their early history out of the way, let's get into some of the Vrykul sub-factions. Centuries passed, and the cursed Vrykul had run out of options. Priests and priestesses decided to reach into the depths of the spirit world, where maybe they could find an answer to their ailment. But instead, they kinda damned themselves to eternal torment.
So kind of you to deliver your souls to me. It will save my Valkyr the trouble of fetching them from the surface world. Come, mortals, you have earned an eternity of torment.
Instead, they had called forth Helya, the Sea Witch and the Mother of the Underworld. She further corrupted these Vrykul and transformed them into the Kovaldir. These cursed sailors are fearsome Vrykul spirits, who you'll find all across the coastlines of Northrend and roam the seas in a dense fog and drag down all who they come across into the depths of Helheim. But thankfully not all Vrykul accidentally damn themselves to eternal torment. Some learn to adapt to their new fleshy bodies to the best of their ability, like the Dragonflayer clan, who learn to master the art of taming proto-dragons. The Dragonflayers use their newfound companions to drive out their mortal enemy called the Jalgar, a race of humanoid bear people. The Jalgar fled from the northern reaches of Kalimdor all the way down to the center of the continent, and these bear people would later turn into the furbolgs we know today. Anyways, back to the Vrykul. They celebrated their victory over the Jalgar, but soon after, an even more disruptive threat would plague them from within.
Good tidings. Hi.
Somehow, the Curse of Flesh had developed even further, and all of a sudden, they started giving birth to malformed, tiny babies. The Vrykul were incredibly confused and deeply divided on what to do with their weird new children. It was either accept them into their society and have them be, I don't know, proto-dragon caretakers?
A duck walked into an apothecary and he said, "Give me some chapstick and put it on my bed."
Or they could just kill them all and maintain the Vrykul bloodline of being giant ripped barbarians. King Yimmeron, leader of the Dragonflayer clan, chose the latter option. He believed that the Curse of Flesh and their weird babies were because the Keepers had abandoned them to this curse. That wasn't true, but the Vrykul really didn't know any better. By the king's orders, all worship of the Titans would be outlawed, and the sickly kin were ordered to be executed. Obviously, not all the Vrykul were willing to kill their own flesh and blood, even if they looked, weird. Instead, a select few Vrykul took their children far, far away to a land only known in legend called Tirsfall, which you probably know as the zone Tirsfall Glades. The Vrykul living there would raise their young in peace, and these runts would later evolve into the humans we know today. Back in Northern Kalimdor, even if they killed all the weird-looking babies, they were still making weird-looking babies.
How does a Tauren hide in a cherry tree? He paints his hooves red.
So, in an effort to halt the curse of flesh, King Ymron and the rest of the Vrykul went into a deep hibernation. Not even the sundering of the world woke them up from their slumber, and they'd remain that way all the way until just before Wrath of the Lich King, 15,000 years later. And yeah, going into hibernation did not help at all with their curse of flesh problems, and now there was roaming bands of undead monstrosities wandering all across Northrend. The Vrykul believed that the Lich King was the god of death and pledged themselves to him. It was either that or get eaten by ghouls, so, they didn't really have an option. King Ymron and the rest of the Dragonflayers returned to their fortress called Utgard Keep and relentlessly fight against the Alliance and Horde as allies of the Scourge. Now, you'll mainly find the Dragonflayers in the zone Howling Fjord, but there's a variety of other Vrykul clans all across Northrend, like the ones in the snowy peaks of Storm Peaks. Here in Brunhildar village, there is a small faction of Frost Vrykul who are loyal to the Titan Keeper Thorim, who resides
in the mountains.
This matriarchal society of Vrykul are called the Heilnir, who are a ferocious band of warriors. They have an event called Heidel's Meet, where they compete against each other in brutal hand-to-hand combat, mounted bear brawls, and even skirmishes on the backs of proto-drakes. Oh, and punting penguin competitions. Okay, that last one isn't true, but the winner gets the rule by Thorim himself.
In the mountains.
These are the only Vrykul in all of Northrend who aren't working with the Lich King, or ghostly seafaring pirates. But they still aren't the most pleasant bunch of barbarians, because they do kidnap and enslave any and all males and force them to work to death in their mines. But, lesser of two evils, I guess, right? The mortal enemies of the Heilnir are a small group called the Valkyron. Now, the Valkyron is another group of female Frost Vrykul who pledge their loyalty to the Lich King and work tirelessly to create blighted proto-drakes in their breeding pools. They seek to prove their worth to the Scourge so that one day they could be transformed into Valkyr. Now there's one last group of Vrykul located in Icecrown, who are easily my favorite ones in all of Northrend. The Myrdin and the Jotunheim clans have willingly submitted themselves to be enhanced by the Lich King. In order to be granted with such strength, living warriors travel to Jotunheim and fight in epic one-on-one battles with their fellow Vrykul.
No mercy.
The victors of the battle are empowered with the strength of the Lich King as scourge weapons of warfare. And the losers are corrupted into sickly undead drones called the Vargul. But who cares about these losers? The victors then travel to Ymirheim, a significant place in Vrykul culture, and these champions become an elite cast of warriors called the Ymirjar, who are one of the most dangerous forces at the Lich King's disposal. And I said one of, because the wide variety of dragon riding, seafaring, and scourge worshipping Vrykul are just a small handful of enemies you'll be facing in Wrath of the Lich King Classic.